Hey, welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Thank you guys for being so patient, waiting for us to get going today. It's Friday. There's a lot that's about to happen between now and the next 72 hours. Yes, tampering starts on Monday, but I think that we all know phone calls have been made. People are talking. We just don't know what they're talking about. But we've got a lot of news and rumors to cover today. One being Trey Hendrickson. This was something that nobody really expected, to see him actually get an opportunity to get a trade deal done before free agency. Is it going to happen? Are the Detroitlions looking or interested? We'll find out here in just a few more moments. We've got the Riley Report today. We've got Lions news and rumors. We got NFL news and rumors. We got free agency fits. And it's going to be an action-packed weekend. Good morning, everybody. Be back here in 30 seconds. We'll get rolling.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering YOOPERLITES, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from YOOPERLITES.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for YOOPERLITES, with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit YOOPERLITES.com for all your UV flashlight needs, with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from YOOPERLITES.com.
All right. Good morning, fellas. What's happening?
It's rocking and rolling this morning.
It is, man. We got a lot of people in the chat this morning waiting. Appreciate you guys again. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Action-packed Friday. Good morning, Riley.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning?
So, bombshells all day yesterday.
Yep.
All day. Unlike the stock, the NASDAQ that's down over 10%, there's a lot of NFL stock rising like crazy today. A lot of free agency talk. It's going to be on and popping just like this chat is. So let's say good morning to some people that have joined us this morning already. We got Jay Cruzen, William Daniel, Brady Coffee, J-Rod, Trace, Mike P. Or let's see, where's all the other members and moderators?
Yeah, we got Richard Blakely, we got Brandy Coffee, Roxanne Rittman, William Daniel, Jay Cruzen. Man, this chat's going pretty good already.
We got John Desage in the house this morning. Roxanne Rittman, I think you already said that one. Attila Hardy, Adam Gakowski, and a big shout out to Adam G. Another $20 Cash App donation this morning. Appreciate you, buddy. Always showing up, man. Every week it seems like he's doing something to help out the channel. And speaking of that, I got to give a special shout out to all the mods. And you guys show up each and every day. You give us a lot of your time, and it's not underappreciated, man. It is so appreciated that you guys show up, not just to have fun with the chat, but you guys are really a big part of the channel and helping us continue our growth. So appreciate you guys. Thank you. And let's get into our first topic this morning, which is going to be Trey Hendrickson. We're just going to start right with him. So a lot of conversation yesterday. I mean, 97.1, the ticket was talking about it. That might have been this morning too, but they were talking about it all day. And, what is this going to look like? It's really no different to me than Myles Garrett. It's really no different than Max Crosby at this point. But does this one make a little bit more sense than some of the others? That's been the topic of conversation. Like, could this one actually get done for the Lions? I mean, I'm not going to fill you full of garbage, right? I mean, we're going to try to give you the real, the raw, the analytical perspective of why or why not. And I think the first thing that I want to start with is his age. He's 30 years old, or about to be 30 years old, or about to be 31, somewhere in between that range. And we've seen players, like Khalil Mack, I mean, entering 34-ish, 35 years old this year, has played at a high level, still playing at a high level. And so when people throw out an age factor that it will or it won't work, or it shouldn't work because he's too old, I guess I'm going to hit the pause button on that a little bit. And I'm going to say that age is really just nothing but a number. And if he's still performing at a high level, he doesn't have a ton of injury history, I would say that there's a greater potential for his short-term future, 2-3 seasons, to probably be better than what people are expecting, or to continue along the same trajectory that he has right now, which is back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons. Hendrickson is now on the trade market. He's officially out there to find a new home. Obviously, it's a short little distance from Cincinnati to Detroit, about 5.5 hours. Makes a lot of sense from that perspective. The Bengals granted, obviously, the All-Pro permission to seek a trade just the other day. Now, the NFL Network insiders, Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, reported on Thursday that this came through by sources. Then, of course, the team announced the same thing. So, third-round pick of the Saints in 2017, Trey Hendrickson has been one of the best defensive ends in the league. And I think that gives you hope, I would hope, right? That in the draft, you could find somebody, but it just might take a couple of seasons for that player to take off. And I know that we're in this mode now of immediate gratification. Like Eric says, we want our marshmallows now. Sometimes a player like Trey, you just don't know what you have until he shows up. They finally figure out that last pass rush move or their go-to move. And next thing you know, they're able to slice and dice offensive lines and get to the quarterback. And I feel like that's kind of happened with Trey. He got off to a slow start, but then he started to kind of finesse what he was doing on the field, and it's worked for him. He's obviously been one of the most coveted free agents, really since the year began. I mean, it was the talk of the town. He showed up on Radio Row. Myles Garrett obviously was, in that same circus down there talking about his potential trade to another team that the Browns are clearly saying not going to happen. But Trey actually has an opportunity to move on. So this is the biggest name free agent right now as far as defensive end that actually has potential to become a Detroit Lion, and that's only because he's allowed to seek a trade. He finished 24 as the NFL sack leader. He earned his first All-Pro nod by producing what would be an elite rate, despite belonging to a Cincinnati defensive front that really has struggled against the run and also generating consistent pass rush over the last few seasons. The last thing I'll say before we get into his contract and before I get your comments on this here on the panel is, what do you think is going to happen for him moving forward? Where do you think his contract is going to end up? Is it going to be any different than Max Crosby? Is it going to be any different for Aiden Hutchinson? And what I'm talking about is the amount of compensation that he's about to get. It could be more than Max that he's looking for. We just don't know. Does Trey just want out of Cincy because he wants to play for a contender? I would say Cincy's not that far away. They're really not. They're a couple of players away. So this reeks of maybe impossibility because of the cap number, but we'll talk it out. So Eric, I'll start with you. This started a few weeks ago with Trey. There was rumors, he wanted to either stay or go. He put it out publicly. With Rich Eisen, he said, I would love to stay in Cincy, but at the same time, I'd want to see Cincy win a Super Bowl, whether that's with me or because of me and the draft picks that they get for him. So I don't know if you've looked at any draft compensation for Trey, but there's already been conversation that it could be as high as a single one in this year's draft and a mid-round or day 2 pick, third, or an early day 4th round pick going to Cincinnati. I've also seen a second and a third as far as valuable compensation going back to Cincinnati to make the trade. So it's not as high as what some people are thinking, 2 firsts or first and, a second and a third or whatever. It's not going to be that high. This is a very deep draft. And I think that is going to water down the trade for Trey Hendrickson and what Cincinnati is going to get in return. So what are your thoughts, Eric?
Well, I might just surprise you with my answer.
All right.
It might not be what you think. So looking at Trey's market value, it's $29.7 million average annual per year.
Mm-hmm.
That is just nuts. I don't know if the Lions can take on that kind of money. Now, looking around the old interwebs, I found something from, let's see, what is this from? From Bleacher Report, and they put out the top 5 trade packages that they think are being offered for Trey Hendrickson. Number 1 from the Washington Commanders is Daron Payne and a 2025 third-round draft pick. That sounds pretty economical to me.
Yeah, if you have a Daron Payne.
I don't think they're going to take it, but hey, it gets them a player and gets them a draft pick. Number 2 from the Chicago Bears, the 2025 10th overall pick in the first and a third round pick in exchange for Trey Hendrickson, the 17th overall draft pick, and a fourth round draft pick.
Repeat that one more time. The comp.
So for the Bengals would get the Bears 10th overall in the first and a third, and the Bears would get Trey Hendrickson, their 2025 17th overall pick, and a fourth round pick.
So you're pick swapping first, you're adding a third, and you're getting Trey in return.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one's not too out of the round of, or, the realm of possibility. And then the next one is from the Atlanta Falcons. And this is a 2025 second round pick and a 2026 third round pick. And they get nothing else in return other than Trey Hendrickson.
Okay. Now
the next one's from New England. And this is for a 2025 second round draft pick straight up for Trey Hendrickson. And the Bengals are pretty high on the draft order, so it's basically just outside of the first round.
And then Riley, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, as you go through this, the point is no matter what source you look at, there's packages that everybody can offer. Every team wants Trey Hendrickson, right? So this really is, there's sometimes when a player wants to be traded, he can, like what Stafford, I feel like he did with LA, where he can kind of have the organization cater to what he wants a little bit. Cincinnati can sit back and take the best offer that they feel is best for them, because there's no shortage of suitors for Trey Hendrickson. I would love if he ends up in Detroit, obviously.
Yeah. And what I see through all of these is that if the Lions were to offer 2 seconds or a second and a third, they're more than all the others. None of these have been for a first round pick other than just pick swaps. And they're not going to swap with the Lions. The Lions are going to have to give them straight up picks.
Possibly. So like John Desage mentions in here that Trey's on the wrong side of 30 for an extension. I mean, that's kind of what I started with when I said age is really nothing but a number. Honestly, John, I feel like that's like the old mentality of the NFL, where players, and I don't know how old you are, but, for me, being in my mid 40s, yeah, when players are getting near 30, it's like, yeah, that player's done, but that you're talking the 90s, the 2000s, where it was a different league. Now with nutrition and, all of the different, options they can take care of their body with, medical advancements. Not only are people getting older, but our bodies are lasting longer. And I think that at 30, depending on how many years you've played in the league and your injury history, I don't really think 30 is a bad number anymore in the NFL. I think that if you've been put through the ringer and you've suffered a lot of concussions and a lot of broken bones or torn ligaments, yeah, 30 is probably not a good number, but he's been pretty healthy. I take it case by case instead of just a hard line. This age and that's it. Can't go past it. I think he's got plenty in the tank. The one thing that I've noticed about Trey, and if you go and you look at his stats, every single season he's gotten better from a PFF grade standpoint. I think there was 1 year that he may have stood still, but he's gotten better and better and better and better every single season. He hasn't taken a step back. That doesn't make me think for 1 second that he's going to take a step back in 2025. I think he's going to continue to rise. Honestly, I'm not picking on John. I'm just using that as an example. Yep. So you mentioned a pick swap in here for the Bears.
Yeah.
So swapping a 17th and the 10th, and then the Bears kicking a third, and then they also get Trey Hendrickson out of the deal.
Yeah.
I don't like that because it still gives the Bears a first round pick. And I don't think that's enough. Probably was a Bears fan that wrote that.
Yeah, they still get Genty if that happens.
Possibly. Well, they'll still be able to get another defensive player or an offensive lineman. They'll be able to get anything at 17.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't really care for that pick. I hope the Bears don't go after Hendrickson. I could see that it is a possibility for them. I think that Ryan Poles wants to make a splash this year. We know that he likes to buy his team. This would be a very smart move, even if they had to give up their first and a third and not get anything back. that would be a smart move. Cap-wise, wouldn't be. They're going to be in trouble. But player-wise, that would be very, very smart. Especially when you add him to that defense. How does it work for the Lions? And before I get into that, Riley, do you have anything else you wanted to add right there?
No, I think you hit it nail on the head, Will, where you were talking about his progression and the trajectory that he's had throughout his career. Because imagine him, if you are Trey Hendrickson, you do get traded, you go to Detroit, you're playing on a great team, you're playing against alongside like Hutchinson, all these other players that we have. I mean, he's bound to succeed. No, he's going to be so motivated. I think he's going to succeed wherever he goes. But yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well.
So let me pull up, make sure I got this in here. It should be in here. Let's go to Spotrac. Oh, hey, no, that's us. Here we go. All right, Spotrac, there we go. Trey Hendrickson, 30 years old in 3 months. So his birthday was in December. So he'll be turning 31 at the end of the season. Now he's a round 3, 103 overall pick in 2017. Market value right now is $29.7 million. When you look at the comp value here, what he's being compared to, Nick Bosa, I had no idea that Nick signed a 5-year, $170 million deal. That's crazy. $34 million average per year. He was 25 when he signed that deal. Leonard Williams at the bottom here, he signed a 3-year, $65.5 million deal at age 29. So that's where I don't think it's like totally out of the realm of possibility. When you look at Danielle Hunter, he also signed his deal at 29, 2 years, was at $49 million. You know, so you combine those two, and that's about an average of 23.5 per year. The top two, which is for the younger fellas still, you know, Nick Bosa and Max Crosby. I mean, massive deal for Max. Why? I don't know why it's saying 4 years. I thought he signed a 3-year. That can't be right. I thought he signed a 3-year, $96 million, or not 3-year, 106.5 at like $96 million guaranteed, and that not 4 years, because that would definitely water it down. But $29.7 million, he's probably going to get it. He's probably going to get all of it. And here's where we're going to put pen to paper and why this will or won't make sense. I assume both of you want to re-sign an extension with Aiden Hutchinson, right? At this point?
Yes.
I'm on, this might be kind of unpopular. I'm of the, let's give him his 5th-year option. We control his rights for another 2 years. Let's let him play his 3rd season. Let's let him play his 4th season, or his 4th season and his 5th season, and we'll go from there. It might be more expensive, but by the time we don't control him anymore, or the time that we can't tag him, well, then Trey's off the books.
I'm going to touch on that. What were you thinking, Riley?
I do want to keep Hutchinson around, although I do think that what you said on a recent show, it makes sense. You don't do it right now. You got to see him back on the field and see how he's performing. But I think that his value is as high as just about anybody on the team. And I think that is the intention of Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, is to keep Hutchinson in Detroit for a long time.
I would agree with that. I kind of agree with both that, and I've been on both sides. You know, a lot of people thought that I was a Hutch hater. I'm not. I'm just a realistic guy that likes to point to the analytical and statistical side of things and have a conversation about it. I know it's not the most popular thing in the world when you're, you know, having a hard discussion about a player that everybody loves, especially when that player also is a, you know, a U of M alum, that there's a large cast of Detroit Lions fans that, you know, are you Michigan Wolverines, so, or at least fans. Look, I like Hutch and his motor and what he's all about. I do. He's clearly been able to perform at a high level. I think with an even better cast around him like he had at the start of last season, you could start to see the potential of where he could be even more dominant when he has a cast around him, just like he did at U of M. His final year at U of M was his only really good year. But when you look at the cast around, I mean, it was an elite squad of defenders. I mean, a lot of 5-star, 4-star athletes. The offense had to commit a ton of resources to everybody but Aiden. And so when you add players like this, like Trey, to a roster, or you add another high-profile player, linebacker, or defensive tackle, well, the offense has to commit resources to other players, which will allow Aiden to have more success, or they commit more to Aiden, and then the other player's going to have more success. It goes both ways. So bringing in a guy like Trey, it would be great. It would be phenomenal. Financially, I don't see how it gets done unless Aiden is willing to take that 5th year and play on the next 2 seasons. That's the only way I see it even being a possibility. And then at that point, next season, you'd have to do the extension because you won't have enough money anyway, keeping him on a 5th year with all that guaranteed money. And then the same thing for Trey. When does his deal start to kick in? So if I remember from his contract, he has 1 more year under contract right now. So if you brought him in and even extended him right now, you could kick the can, you could play the whole game. You know, he could have a $10 million cap hit this year or whatever it is, and you could string it out over the next 5 years with void years and everything else. And you probably wouldn't have a hard line out on Trey until the 3rd year of the contract. So you're going to pay him. What does that mean? You could go all in this year with Trey, and then you could try to offload him next year at 31 years old. There's a possibility there too, but it's easier said than done. And I think that when you look at what Brad has been talking about, these guys aren't available, and when they are available, they're expensive. Well, what if we bring them in, utilize them for 1 season, the all-in mentality? You're gonna have to F these picks a little bit because you're not going to be able to reinvest into your future unless somehow we are able to do a pick swap. Like, let's get Trey and move up to 17, give them next year's first, and give them next year's second. That's probably a little rich. You'd probably have to throw in a 3rd this year. So I'm talking 4 picks, a pick swap plus 3 picks to make it happen. But what does that do for you? Well, that kicks the can even to next year as far as the picks, except for a 3rd this year. You got 2 compensatories, or 2/3 this year and 2/3 next year. I think that helps the situation. And then next year, if you try to trade him, then you get some of that back, especially if he has a phenomenal year this year. You try to trade him and get some of that back. And then the guys that you brought in this year with pick 17, you bring in another defensive end and you get him ready behind these 2 elite, defensive ends, Aiden and Trey. That's the only way I see this going down. You're going to have to give up some draft cap.
Yeah.
With the thought that you can get some of it back next year. And then that contract is going to be nuts. It's just, you're going to lose guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to see it happen. I think it's unrealistic.
See, it's an interesting conversation because where does it fall, right? The hypothetical trades that Eric was listing off, I think you're right, Will. I think it's going to be more along the line of what, like if Brad Holmes called over there today, that's what they're asking for. Something like a scenario like which you just threw out, that's what it's going to take. They're going to want that much for Trey, I feel like.
Warren King says, we don't have 2/3 this year. Why don't we have 2/3? Did we not have a 3rd to start the year with?
Yeah, no, we just have 1.
From the Glenn.
Oh, that's right. We traded that 3rd last year for Smith.
Carlton Davis.
Was it Davis or Smith?
Carlton Davis.
It was Davis.
Davis,
So
yeah.
here's the other scenario that I'm thinking. This one not as popular probably either, but then again, I think it does serve a purpose. Za'Darius Smith. Za'Darius Smith's cap hit this year is what? 12, 13, something in that range.
I thought it was 11.
I don't remember. I don't have it in front of me. So
okay.
What if you send Za'Darius Smith to Cincy in a player pick trade? You give him next year's first. You do a pick swap this year. You give him next year's first and Za'Darius Smith, or next year's second and Za'Darius Smith. Well, that reduces their cap hit from Trey, from like 19 mil down to whatever it is, 11. You know what I mean? I can pull it up.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
So you can't keep all these guys, and it's not like if you have, Trey and Za'Darius Smith and Aiden, it's not like all these guys are going to play. So do you really want to, allow Trey or Aiden or Za'Darius Smith to only play 70, 60% of the snaps this year? and put him in on a big rotation, I mean, I think that would be great, honestly, but I don't think it's feasible when you're looking at paying a guy $11 million a year to play 50% of the snaps. But that does speak to, yeah, we have one really good, remember, Brad, we have one really good edge rusher. Of course, we would love to have 2 or 3. That's how you get it. If you keep Za'Darius Smith and you bring in a guy like Trey, that's how you do it. Wholly unrealistic. So trade Za'Darius, it reduces Cincy's cap hit, gives them a player for this year, gives them a pick for this year to do something with, and then next year the Lions can hopefully trade Trey back off to somebody else. I think that's the only way it works. And I think that there's going to be another market on Trey. If he gets hurt, well, then you're stuck. These are all the things that we have to think about, right? These are all the things that we have to think about. So, hey, Brent says we traded this year's third for Manu last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I forgot about all that. You know, early when all the mock drafts were going, they didn't even have the compensatory pick in there, and so it had a 3rd round pick in there, but it wasn't the right one. But we have 101 this year, I believe.
Yeah, Za'Darius was like a 5th or a 6th round pick.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
Yeah,
well, and you've only paid him what, $5 million last year or something, $6 million.
Yeah, his cap hit for this year is $5.75 million.
Yeah, they have a cash number on him at 11, so that must be with some bonus money.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we were to trade him, let's just say that they'll accept a post June 1 trade. Yeah, Lions wouldn't be saving much. They'd have a cap hit of 1.8 this year and a cap hit of 6.6 next year. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it?
I guess those are the risks you have to take. It's a calculated risk, but man, just like you said, if we acquired him and then he got hurt and then you're stuck. Like you said, it's just
yeah, you're stuck.
Well, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That's any player. You have to assume risk.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's all the NFL is about, is assuming risk.
Yeah, you're right.
So I would love to know. Yeah, you're spot on too, Riley. I mean, it's all risk, right? Everything. You're either risk averse or you're not. I'd like to know in the comments though. Are you guys in or out on Trey Hendrickson if it involves a Za'Darius Smith trade to Cincinnati? Pick swap this year, 17 for 28, and next year's first going to Cincinnati, with the idea that the Lions will at least be able to recuperate a 1st round pick or a 2nd and a 3rd next season in a trade, and offloading Trey after 1 season. Now, again, this is assuming he allows a trade clause in his new contract. That's probably another hard line issue that they're going to have to get around. So I would definitely consider this more so than Garrett, only because I think that Garrett's going to command a little bit more money. And I think that the market is what it is right now. And that's the biggest reason why this probably won't happen. It's just, good, Friday morning football talk, I guess, because the money is just too much. You were going to say something, Eric, and I'll get it in just a sec. Here's my last offer. Aiden's on a rookie deal. What if you traded Aiden away and brought in Trey? Now, I think that would be stupid because you're getting older, right? But is Aiden worth more than Trey right now? No. I think that Trey has proven himself. He's a proven winner, but you don't know if he's going to be proven on your team. You don't know what he's going to be able to do on your team, in your defense, right? You just don't know if that transition from Cincy to Detroit is too much and he has a down season in the first year. You have no idea what to expect. It could happen with any player. There's an adjustment period. So the unpopular take here is, do you do something with Aiden, knowing that there's no way that you could pay Trey and Aiden at the same time? It's impossible. Just like you can't pay Trey and Miles at the same time. You might be able to get away with it for 1 season. That's it. But after that, that's when the walls start to close in. And you start to lose players like Jahmyr Gibbs or Brian Branch or Kirby Joseph or all the rest, right? The only other way that it makes sense is if the Lions do something with Jared Goff. They could renegotiate his contract. They can do a restructure. They can open up some money. That $70 million cap hit next year could be reduced. They could add another year onto it. It's a fugazi anyway, that these contracts are. So they'll get their money, they'll get their guarantee, but the big number oftentimes doesn't happen. So Jared could open up some cap space and do a restructure. That could absolutely happen. Nice little reunion here, though, with DJ Reader and Trey. That'd be nice.
Oh, yeah.
And it was nice to see that Trey was able to produce again and on a defense that, you know, it really didn't have, you know, the big time playmakers around him. It was him. Like, he was the guy. That's why I like Trey so much, because when you look at a player that is proven, he proved it by himself. Now, I know it's a team game, and yes, the team does rely on everybody that's playing in the game, but Trey was the only defender in that front line that was worth anything, in my opinion. And if he's able to take on those doubles and those chips and that get through the zone blocking schemes and still get after the quarterback, that tells me that player can do it. Look at another player in the same situation. If they've got all these players around them and they can't produce, I'm a little bit less likely to want to have that player on my team. Myles Garrett, same thing. Dude's been producing by himself no matter what. Beating those double teams and getting to the quarterback. Go ahead, Riley.
No, yeah, you're exactly right. It's production that you can trust.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
What I was going to say was this.
Sure.
Trey Hendrickson was drafted in the 3rd round overall by the New Orleans Saints. He played from 2017 to 2020 with the New Orleans Saints. Who was with the New Orleans Saints during part of that time?
Anzalone.
Dan Campbell.
Well, Campbell was there. Anzalone was there too.
Yeah. So Mr. Dan Campbell knows Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, he does for sure.
They've worked with each other. So that may help with trade discussions as well. And I looked at a couple other things. Trey Hendrickson has been fined a total of 4 times. All 4 times were for roughing the passer. He's never been suspended. And then looking at his statistics here, he had 1 season where he missed a good portion of the season, and that was in 2018. He only played 5 games, but in all the other seasons, he played 12 games, 5 games, 13, 15, 16, 15, 17, and 17. So that tells me this guy stays healthy. Even though he's pushing 30, this guy is staying healthy, and that is something we haven't had the pleasure of having, is a top-notch player that is healthy and stays healthy. The players we've had to bring in, you know, the Carlton Davises, the DJ Readers, the Marcus Davenports, they've all been often injured, you know, even Emmanuel Mosley. So to bring someone in that has a proven track record of health, a proven track record of being the sack leader in the NFL for almost 2 seasons in a row. And I just think this would make so much sense for our team to bring someone in like this. Now, there have been rumors that Brad Holmes has already been on the phone to the Bengals about Trey Hendrickson. Now I can't.
Who started the rumors?
What's that?
Who started the rumors?
It's all online, you know, stuff on X and Facebook and stuff that they've been contacted, but nobody will say who they got this information from.
I think we've been pretty clear with that. And like even Justin Rogers is very clear with it the other day. Nobody will know who Brad has talked to but Brad. Nobody.
Exactly.
So I don't believe in the hype. Don't believe in the clickbait. If you want the real, the raw, you'll get it here. I don't want to lead a horse to water that is an empty pool. All right. At the end of the day, we want to get things right, not wrong.
And that's why I said exactly that. 1,000,000% rumor.
Yeah, it's crazy. All the things that are going to be flying. It's just part of it. Maybe people are adjusting to it, but I'll save. No, I won't even go there. All right. So we've got about, 10 minutes or so before we get into the Riley Report. What did we have in the NFL Friday frenzy? Cuts, signings, restructures. We got a little update from yesterday.
Yeah. So, oh my God, there's like 30 different cuts, releases, trades, all this stuff that happened yesterday. It is insane. So we'll go through them real quick. And if any of these newly cut free agents make sense for the Lions, let me know. I'll stop and we'll talk about them. Number one, Bobby Wagner re-signed with the Washington Commanders on a 1-year, $9.5 million contract. Ronald Darby, the cornerback for the Jaguars, was released yesterday with a $2.44 million cap. So they got cap relief of $2.4 million. Would Ronald Darby interest you at all as a corner?
Negative.
Okay. And then one of our own, former wide receiver Josh Reynolds, was released from the Jacksonville Jaguars with a $4.26 million cap saving. Would he interest you at all to come back to the Detroit Lions if we lose Tim Patrick?
Negative.
Okay. Evan Ingram, the tight end, was released by Jacksonville, creating $6 million of cap space. And then Devin Duvernay, the wide receiver, was released by Jacksonville, creating $132,000 of cap space. The Jaguars have been very busy. And then long snapper Liam McCullough was signed to a 4-year contract extension with the Atlanta Falcons. Christian Kirk. So it was reported that he was being released, but now, in a change of heart, he has been traded to the Houston Texans from Jacksonville for the Texans' 2026 seventh round pick that they had received from the LA Rams. Now, this next player may or may not interest Lions fans. Raekwon Davis, defensive tackle, was released by the Indianapolis Colts, creating $6.49 million of cap space. Would you have any interest in Raekwon Davis?
I had more interest in Christian Kirk.
Okay.
But he's gone.
Yep.
Raekwon Davis. So I can't remember. He's still fairly young, right? 27, 28.
Yep. Let's see. I'll click on his thing here.
So it looks like this year he had a voided deal. Obviously, he's a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
Was he cut yesterday?
Yeah, he was released by the Indianapolis Colts. He had 1 more year left.
There's some interest here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely some interest here, especially for a former Alabama Crimson Tide here. So 2024, he played 17 games, no starts, only 350 snaps, no sacks, 15 tackles. So light duty last year. I mean, his best season came in 2022, or maybe his rookie year. He's not a sack guy. So, I mean, this guy he's just going to be a run stuffer. You know, I don't know his PFF or any of those grades. Not that PFF is the end all be all, but it paints a good picture, right?
Yep.
What do you think, Riley, about Raekwon? Do you know anything about Raekwon Davis?
Not enough to really have an opinion one way or another on him. Yeah,
PFF's in the tank.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on. The Chicago Bears have re-signed a contract extension with cornerback Josh Blackwell. And then the Texans, they signed a 1-year contract extension with Kirk Hinnish, defensive tackle. And now another former Detroit Lions favorite was cut yesterday by the Buffalo Bills. Punter Sam Martin was released by the Buffalo Bills, creating $2 million in cap space. The Buffalo Bills are really up against it with the cap, so they're having to cut some people they don't really want to cut, because I know they really enjoyed having Sam Martin as their punter. The Seahawks, they did a contract extension with cornerback Josh Joby yesterday, and he signed an extension. And then the Washington Commanders, they signed former Detroit Lions kicker Zane Gonzalez to a 1-year extension. The Vikings, they came to a deal with Theo Jackson, their safety from last year. He signed a 2-year, $12 million extension with the Minnesota Vikings. And then the Chicago Bears, they re-signed
Amon O.
Amon O, the outside linebacker. And then the LA Rams and Tutu Atwell, the wide receiver, he signed a 1-year, $10 million contract extension.
So let me pause right there. So
Sure.
this now will set the floor for free agency wide receivers. I believe that the Tutu Atwell contract is probably going to be a baseline for players of similar age and experience, and obviously statistical measurement, what he's done in his career. I mean, he's averaged, about 400 yards a season, about 40 receptions a season. Last year, he only started 5 games, but did play in 17. He's been fairly healthy. I think it was in 22 that he had a couple of injuries, but he's a rotational, number 3 on your roster, maybe even a number 4 on your roster. Someone that's, not going to get a ton of snaps, maybe half the snaps in a season, but at $10 million a year, I think that the conversation right now and why I feel like Brad is probably going to step back out of the first wave is because the last 2 seasons, with the draft cap or with the salary cap going up as high as it has, players and agents want more money. And I don't think that it's affecting the bigger numbers, so to speak, the bigger contracts as much as it is the smaller contracts. Whereas maybe you could get a player for 1 year at $6 million. That's probably more like 1 year, 7.5 now, 1 year at 8. And that means a lot to second tier, third tier players that the Lions need to fill these needs with, fill the holes with, where there's just not going to be enough money to go around. And I think that's something to pay attention to, that even though the numbers are going up, and we've talked about it. I mean, we see it a lot in the chat. You see it a lot online. You see it a lot in, everywhere on social media, that a lot of fans believe that we can just get all this stuff done because the draft or the salary cap goes up so high. But look at it the other way. Yeah, it's going up, but so are the lower dollar amount contracts. The average per year is going up as well. So it's almost like a wash, especially when you need, 4 or 5 smaller contract guys versus the 1 or 2 bigger contract guys. It's those 4 or 5 contracts that's going to hurt you more, because if you could have signed 4 guys at 20 million 2 years ago, that might be 4 guys at 28 million now, which means you've just lost out on a player and a half that you could have signed this year. If you understand where my math is going.
Mm-hmm.
There was a few more in here that
Yep.
I don't think we really need to worry about, other than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
That was the only other one where he converted 44.7 million into a signing bonus, added a void year, created 35 million of cap for Cleveland. That just dug them out. And I can't believe that they even did that. Like, I don't even know why Deshaun did that, but I guess if someone was going to hand me a check for 44.7 million, sure.
Listen,
do what you got to do.
You
he
think
doesn't
about it.
care how he gets paid.
Right. He's getting paid no matter what.
He gets paid. He doesn't care.
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
God, that is the worst contract in history.
Yeah, it is.
A few more minutes here. Let's get into New England. Is the Siberia? No, we'll save that one.
All right.
We've got Lions news coming up. Let's just get into our Riley report. Riley, are you good to go?
Let's rock. Let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back in 30 seconds. We'll get into the Riley report. Better the Hunt Technologies and C3 Mitts, the ultimate hunting and multi-use glove system for hunters and outdoor enthusiasts. Now, C3 Mitts are designed to keep your bare hand protected and warm no matter what the weather throws at you. The patented attachment system was designed to keep your hand on target with the ultimate feel of comfort confidence, and control. The triple layer barrier of moisture wicking material combined with 200 grams of thin-slit insulation locks in the heat, but not the moisture. That hot hands pocket adds extra heat when the temps dip below freezing. Rain or snow? No problem for C3 mitts. The durable outer shell is water resistant and windproof, shielding your hands from the elements. C3 mitts has solved the cold, stiff, and shaky hand syndrome that all hunters have faced, causing you to miss opportunities on your hunt. Whether you're stalking your prey, chopping wood, or simply enjoying a winter's day, C3 mitts have got you covered. So this winter, keep your hands warm and your adventures going strong with C3 mitts. C3 mitts, warmth, comfort, confidence, and control. I guarantee it, or your money back. Make sure you visit c3mitts.com right after the
All right, let's get this started. In today's Riley's Road Report, we are going to examine the NFC East, and we will start in Dallas with them Cowboys. The Cowboys came to an agreement with offensive tackle Osa Odigizua. Now, conversations between Dallas front office and Osa's agent had been ongoing for weeks, and the Cowboys, by reaching this agreement with Osa, avoid having to use the franchise tag in this situation. According to Todd Archer of ESPN, the deal includes $80 million, of which $58 million is guaranteed, and comes with a nice signing bonus of $20 million. Cowboys executive vice president Stephen Jones said, quote, "He's a homegrown guy who we think is a really good football player." In draft news out of Dallas, Lance Zierlein of NFL.com feels that Boise State running back Ashton Gianti could end up in Dallas with their 12th overall pick, saying, quote, "Gianti is one of the best players in this draft. While this is a deep running back class, I'm guessing Jerry Jones will take a swing at special here over good later on. Even if the Cowboys bring back Rico Dowdle, Gianti brings juice to that offense that might be too tantalizing for Dallas to pass up on." And in free agency news for the Cowboys, Randy Gurzy of Sports Illustrated recently highlighted 3 players he thinks the Cowboys may have on their radar: guard Will Hernandez, running back Najee Harris, and safety Javon Holland. Which of these players, if any, could end up in Dallas? Will, what are your thoughts on news out of the Big D?
Well, I couldn't find the report this morning to double check. I don't know why I don't have it, but you spoke of Ashton Gianti.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, my first mock draft, I think I put Gianti to the Cowboys. So that one does make sense to me. Obviously, they need a running back. I think that Jones is probably more in the boat of trying to make a splash and bring in some high-powered offense, give Dak some opportunity to succeed, and then have somebody for the future. But I also, in my most recent mock, I put Gianti to the Bears. So I think that with the Bears being in front and what they've done recently in free agency or prior to free agency, bringing in some offensive linemen, I think there's a more likelihood that he doesn't make it to the Cowboys. But that's about it for me on the Bears. What's next for you?
Yeah, Philadelphia. So obviously we've all heard the news now. Eagles reward Saquon Barkley for his incredible 2024 season. The Eagles and 28-year-old Saquon Barkley have agreed to terms on a 2-year extension. The 2-year extension will run through the 2028 season. Barkley will be 30 and 31 in those 2 seasons of the deal. It's rare for the Eagles to give out an extension after just 1 year, but Saquon is worth that exception after the season he just had in 2024. Not only did he become the 9th running back in NFL history to rush for 2,000 yards in a season, but he also rushed for more yards than anybody in the regular season and postseason in NFL history. Just a remarkable season for Saquon, and a move that the Giants, I'm sure, are kicking themselves over not keeping him. And then Martin Frank from Delaware News Journal and Eagles Draft News projects James Pierce, edge out of Tennessee. He says, if Pierce reminds you of Nolan Smith, well, he should. Pierce led all edge rushers with a 4.47 time in the 40. And at 6'5", 245 pounds, he's built much like Smith. He could be a good fit in Philadelphia along the D-line. And then lastly, in draft news, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler says the Eagles already released Darius Slay, designating him as a post-June 1 cut. they could now release defensive back James Bradbury, which I believe has happened now. Bradbury was a second-team All-Pro in 2022 and started 16 games. He racked up 13 passes defended and an interception while playing cornerback. He was slated to move to safety for the 24 season, but missed the whole campaign with the lower leg injury. Anything stand out to you, Will, for news out of Philadelphia?
Not really anything exciting here. I think the reason why Bradbury didn't really make it back, I mean, he was healthy enough to play. During the season, he suffered that lower leg injury, but he was good enough to go. He was just pushed down the depth chart. You didn't expect Quinion, Mitchell and Cooper DeJean to really have the success that they did. And they did. So that obviously left Bradbury off the depth chart and clearly now released along with Darius Slay. Something tells me that Philly might look for another corner or safety early in this draft. So I'm not totally out on the fact that they might go early. But that's really all I have on Philly.
Perfect. Let's head over to Washington. Former Lions quarterback Dan Orlovsky says that the biggest news, obviously, for Washington was acquiring Deebo Samuel, but he's not sold on it. He said, I do think this is Orlovsky speaking, says, I do think Washington is fascinating, though, because of this. And I loved Washington last year. I do want to give them their flowers and give them credit. I also think they cannot fall into the trap of thinking that they're close. 5 wins in the last play of the game, essentially. That's not likely in the NFL. So while they're encouraged and intriguing, they're not one Deebo Samuel away from chasing down Philadelphia. There are still flaws in this roster that they got to have a very much so like attack mindset and not resting on the success of last year mindset. Draft news out of Washington. Iowa's Kalen Johnson is being mocked to the Commanders. As seen with the acquisitions of cornerback Marshawn Lattimore and receiver Deebo Samuel, the Commanders are going all in, while quarterback Jaden Daniels is still on his rookie deal. A young running back is an underrated need, and Johnson would fit perfectly into Cliff Kingsbury's offense. His one-cut and accelerate style, combined with pass-catching upside, would help him thrive in Washington's scheme. And then free agent news. Could the Commanders target Tevin Jenkins? Fortunately for the Commanders, a very talented yet underrated option just became available, and his name is Tevin Jenkins. Jenkins is basically out of the door in Chicago, who just traded for Jonah Jackson. Unless something falls through between now and March 12th, Jackson will take over Jenkins' left guard spot once he's officially on the roster. Jenkins has Pro Bowl level talent. His issue has been staying healthy over the years, but when he's healthy, he's a clear upgrade and could end up in Washington. Anything stand out to you there for the Commanders, Will?
So I'll just kind of echo what Orlovsky said, but I guess the exact opposite. I think that Orlovsky is wrong here. I mean, Washington has a really good football team. I think that they exercised a lot of the demons on that team last year by bringing in the coach that they did with Dan Quinn. The quarterback, Jaden Daniels, I don't believe he's going to regress this season. I think that he's not going to have a sophomore slump. And they added Deebo, right? So if you're giving Jaden more weapons, that does not mean that you're not going to have or it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a better season. You should, right? Mm-hmm. You're adding playmakers around him. It's only giving them more options in the RPO with a guy with Deebo, and Deebo still has plenty of playmaking ability, left. So look, I think that the Commanders, they're going to be right back in the hunt this year. I think Orlovsky he's full of it.
Yeah, I'm not going to underrate Washington again. I got burned doing that last year. And then we will end up wrap things up in the Big Apple. I think we kind of talked about this on the show the other morning. I know Eric brought it up, but big news is, do the Giants pivot now to Aaron Rodgers with Stafford going back to LA? Aaron Rodgers and North Jersey might just be a match made in heaven. After 2 wildly unsuccessful seasons with the Jets, the Giants are now the favorites to land the future Hall of Fame quarterback, coming in at minus 150 odds on DraftKings Sportsbook. Draft news for the Giants. There's a theory that they will trade up to number 1 to select Cam Ward. It's a clear choice for the Giants now. If they think they can sit at number 3 and still land Ward, that would be the most preferred path. But they appear willing to trade up to target Cam Ward. Multiple league sources left their meetings with the Giants this week thinking a trade for number 1 pick with Tennessee was very likely. in that scenario, they expected it to be for Miami's Cam Ward. If free agency news for New York, Dan Benton from the Jensen's Wire is convinced that the Giants will be targeting the guard position. The Giants will enter free agency looking to address multiple positions. Most notably, they need a starting quarterback and cornerback, which will command most of their attention. However, other important needs cannot be ignored. One of those comes at right guard, which is expected to be vacated once Greg Van Roten hits free agency. And then let's see, I think we've got, the Giants remain reluctant to move Evan Neal inside to guard. And even if they did, there are no assurances he'd be starting. For that reason, Schoen and the team are already, quote, lurking around the league and the free agent guard market. Any thoughts for you, Will, from the Big Apple?
Well, Tommy DeVito is taking a bite of the apple and he's heading back to New York. So he's the only quarterback now on the roster for the Giants. I guess, look, I expect the Giants to grab a quarterback in this, this circuit or circus of quarterbacks, if you will. I think that it's more likely that they try to back into the second half. They try to back into the end of the first round. I've been mocking a trade with the Lions at 28 to move to 33 or 34 or 35 with somebody that needs a quarterback, and expecting that they're going to pass on a quarterback early in the draft and then opt for a second tier, if you believe they're a second tier, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, somebody else that you could see go at the end of the first round. That's my only take on New York right now. I think that they're kind of in this retooling phase. I don't think they're full rebuild, but I do believe that they're trying to make something happen this year. Is that it for our Riley report today?
I think that's it, man. The last thing is Jackson Dart. Man, I saw that kid play when he was in 9th grade. I saw him live, and just time goes so quick. Now he could potentially be a top pick in the draft. But I think that's it for the NFC East and the Riley Road Report.
All right. All right, and now we have a little bit of breaking news. Mike Garafolo and the insiders are reporting that owner of the Browns, Jimmy Haslam, has declined to meet with Myles Garrett because he trusts Andrew Berry to handle the situation. Let's take a listen here at what they're talking about.
Let's bring up Tom Pelissero's post on X here and run through the news here and provide the context for what is happening. Myles Garrett, we know he wants to trade. He's made that clear. Not about money. It's about playing for a competitive team. Does not feel right now the Browns are in that situation. The Browns have made it clear, publicly, privately, we are not trading this guy. He is not going anywhere. Andrew Berry telling me at the Combine, a future in which Myles Garrett is not playing for the Browns. That's not a future that we want to be in. So here's what happened. Garrett reached out to Jimmy Haslam, requested a meeting with the owner, according to Tom Pelissero's sources, and Haslam said no. Now, my understanding is the reason that Haslam said no here is we know what the issues are. We know about the communication between your agent and Andrew Berry, our general manager, and our organization, the communication both sides. You need to go to Andrew Berry on this. And Haslam does, full trust in Berry to handle this situation, and basically redirected Garrett and his agent to Berry in this situation, saying, you're not going to go around the general manager and come to me to get this thing done. So this one is going to be a standoff. That's going to take a while. We've been saying that from the beginning. This is something that could last through the spring, into the summer, perhaps into the regular season. We'll see where it goes. But the Browns have made it clear they're not interested in trading Myles Garrett. They're not interested in having conversations about trading Myles Garrett with other teams. And Jimmy Haslam's not interested in having a conversation with Garrett about the situation that doesn't include the general manager, Andrew Berry. So that's where we stand. This continues.
All right. Well, there you heard it from Garafolo himself. And according to the Browns, nothing's changed. So you're a week away, not even, a few days away from free agency. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of conversations that typically happen between, a couple weeks ago and next week. And this is not one that's happening. And when I hear and see things that are being reported that, Brad Holmes is calling on, Myles Garrett or whatever, or who this team's calling on, look, they can call all they want, but I think that we've seen this story play out far enough already. The Browns want nothing to do with it. They want nothing to do with another team that has interest in Myles Garrett. They have no interest in trading him. At the end of the day, they have a contract in place. If Myles Garrett doesn't want to play, he's going to sit. And if he's going to sit, he's going to get fined. And if he's going to get fined, maybe he doesn't care. And maybe at some point it does force the hand of the Browns, but it's going to be too little too late to do something in this draft. I think that the Browns and Garrett will probably work something out. Maybe this is forcing the Browns to take a look at their team and do something a little bit different than what they were originally planning to give Myles Garrett an opportunity at a championship sooner rather than later. All right, next up, let's get into Lions news. It is 9:13 a.m. And we'll get into the second half of the show here. Now, Eric, you have a laundry list of some names here that we're going to get into talking about different possibilities, playing the yes or no game here on free agents. There's one tidbit I want to get out first, though. Riley, your Lions news of the day comes from Ben Raven, and he's projecting a certain edge rusher to the Detroit Lions. What's this news all about?
Yes, let me get this pulled here again. So yeah, from Ben Raven from M Live. Again, I don't know, maybe last year with cornerback, but I can't recall a time where it was like a unanimous deal where the Lions were, they're taking this position. It's just a matter of which player is going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Raven says at 6'4", he's talking about Nick Scourton, a Texas A&M edge. He says at 6'4", weighing 257 pounds at the combine, Scourton was notably down from his listed playing weight of 285 pounds. He showed more burst, but the way he plays still makes it feel like he has inside-out versatility. Scourton has made noise from a two-point stance or with his hands in the dirt, which is never a bad thing, especially when thinking about lining up Aiden Hutchinson playing every snap at one of the edge defender spots. This would give the Lions another option if someone like Josh Paschal fails to step up his game as his rookie contract nears its end. So what do you think, Will? What are your thoughts on Scourton? And let's just say if the draft was right now and the pick was just made and it was Nick Scourton, what do you think your thoughts and feelings are on that pick?
I don't think that I've really wavered, but let me go back to what you were saying about last year. I think I was the only one on an island all by myself that said that the Lions were taking a corner in the first round. And I said that they were going to double dip and probably take two. And then I even said that they were going to take Vaki. So they were going to take 3 DBs in that draft, and they did. Everybody thought it was edge last year. And I mean, I understand why, but I think that when you look at a team and the needs, and it's not so much needs in the draft as it is finding the best player available like Brad likes to do. I think that there's analysis that needs to get done. And then when you look at this year's draft, it's loaded with edge and defensive tackle. How can you not take one this year? We could get fooled, right? I could be wearing egg on my face on the first night of the draft. I am all in, of course, on Nick. Sat with his family at the combine. Love what this dude's all about. Great family, but they had nothing but high praises for Stewart, for Nick. Who was the other guy? There was another, it's a third Texas A&M kid in the draft this year. Might be defensive tackle. But you know, I'm high on all these kids. I mean, I would love every single one of them to be a Detroit Lion. I think they're all great. I think that Stewart's ceiling is a lot higher. I think that Scourton would come in right now and play it out very, very high level. And I do agree that his inside-outside versatility does exist. It absolutely does. You know, and speaking with Nicky Sr., he said that he was down in weight, but it wasn't from 285 to 257. It wasn't a 28-pound drop. It was like 14, 15 pounds. He was playing more around 270, 272 his last year at college. So he did that to obviously get a little bit faster. I think he lost a little bit too much weight in his feet because his shoes kept flying off. So I love Nick. I think that he's one of the purest edge setters in the draft, honestly. I just don't know if the Lions are going to be in a position to grab him at 28. His pro day is going to speak volumes, and I think between him and Stewart, you could see Stewart go ahead of Nick just because of the freakish ability and size and everything that he did agility-wise, and we haven't seen Nick test yet. So once we see that happen, that could change everything. What do you think, Eric? What do you think about Nick and the Lions taking an edge with their first pick?
I don't really know much about him. I didn't see anything during the draft that stuck out to me when I was watching.
You mean the combine?
Yeah, and there was only a few players that like really just, caught my attention, and he just wasn't one of them.
That's crazy. You'd be the only one.
Really?
Yeah. You'd be the only one. You got to watch him again. You got to watch his highlights. And, maybe we'll do another members highlight opportunity. We'll just watch some highlights together and we'll go over it. Nick was one that we watched in the first one. So if you go back and watch the first one, I compared him to Pascal coming out of Kentucky. When you look at the way that Pascal worked the edge and how smart he was off the edge, I didn't realize. So I never watched any tape on Pascal. I didn't know who the guy was. When we drafted him, like, who? No clue who this kid was, especially out of Kentucky. It's just not a school that you associate football with. When you go and watch Josh Pascal and you line up Josh and Nick together side by side, rep after rep, it's like it's so identical. Just a pure edge setter. Now, when Josh Pascal obviously was drafted to the Lions, it wasn't so much to be on the edge. It was to be in that, the end, right? But more so as a defensive lineman. But he is right at that playing weight, the 295-ish that I think Josh Pascal was at, that gave him a little bit more flexibility and versatility to be able to go outside. And we saw it this year. His first real opportunity off the end, I thought he did very well. He played very, very well. So Nick Scorton to the Lions in the first round, I would not be surprised at all. I like his size. I like everything about him. 6'4" to me is kind of that perfect height. But the arm length has to be there. You got to have at least, the 33.25-inch arms are better. If
he and Stewart were both available, who would you take?
You better figure out a way to grab them both. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think that
last year with Fisk and Verse.
Yeah, exactly. So Nick Scorton's dad's not going to like this. I would take Stewart. And here's why. Right now, until I see Nick test, the reason why I would take Stewart is because when I look at his size and agility scores and everything that I witnessed at the combine, I see another Myles Garrett, which is a crazy comp. But that's what I see. I see the freakish athletic ability. He's a one of one, athletic-wise, agility score-wise, jumping out the gym, broad jump, tells me how much burst he has. He has a very quick step off the line. And he has the power, the speed to power combo that James generates. It's pure. He also has some really good hand fighting skills, some good moves. I think Nick still needs to develop a little bit more. But the one thing that I love about Nick and listening to what his brother was telling me is they box together. So he has really good hand fighting, and you see it come alive in Nick's first punch, right? When he's punching the bag or he's punching, down on the line. Offensive tackle, you can clearly see where he's developed that from. He's throwing a straight left, into the tackle off the right side. So I love the ability and listening and hearing about those little things that you might not otherwise pick up. Right? I'll write about it today. We'll write about it today on the Detroit Football Journal. You guys can catch it on Substack. It's linked up here at the top as the pin message. I'm finally starting to write again. I know I took over a year off, but the last time I really wrote is when I grabbed all 5 of Detroit Lions' first 5 draft picks of 2023. That's when
repost that.
Huh?
I'm gonna repost that in the chat.
Gotcha. It's in there. All right, Eric, what do we got now for?
All right, let's play a little game. And this game is called Yes or No. Since the Detroit Lions are in need of a defensive tackle, edge, and cornerback in this draft, I wanted to list some pending free agents and see if it's a yes or a no as a fit with the Detroit Lions this season. So I will ask out of this list, and you tell me in the chat yes or no on each player, and I will pose the same question to Will and Riley. So all I need is a yes or a no. First up, defensive lineman Milton Williams of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's the 2025 free agent, and he ranks number 17 on the list. Williams is already a candidate for the biggest riser on the list, and his stock only improved down the home stretch. His 6 sacks in the regular season are a career best total. A rotational interior defender with serious pass rush juice is often the profile of a player who does very well in free agency, and Williams has limited tread on his tires, given he's never eclipsed 50% of defensive snaps played in a season, despite playing at least 36% in every year since his debut. Leave it to the Eagles to get a new deal done, but if not, don't be surprised when Williams makes a major splash in March. So I'll start with you, Will. Yes or no?
Look, I like Milton Williams. I think his story is great. He's only had one really good year of production, and the Broncos are probably going to offer him $73 million. So, no. And I'm going to say no only because of the cap liability here, the salary cap liability. I think that is too rich. We just paid Aleem. So unless the Lions are trying to do something with Aleem, which I wouldn't expect, I think it's just too rich at this point. Now, if you were to get rid of DJ Reader and free up that money and bring in a guy like Milton Williams, then it makes sense, but we can't keep both. So Reader's got to go. Milton Williams could come in. That's my answer. So the answer is no, unless something can be finagled here.
So what do you think, Riley?
I would say no. I would rather them draft somebody at that position.
And that is what I'm going to say also is no. It's all Super Bowl hype for me. All right, next up, defensive lineman Tier Tart from the Los Angeles Chargers. He's the free agent rank number 83. Tart's talent has never been a question, and he put his abilities against the run and pass on full display in defensive coordinator Jesse Minter's defense. Tart will seemingly be a rotational player who bounces around on short-term contracts, but if you get a locked-in season from him, it's tremendous upside on your investment. So I'll start with you, Riley. Is this a yes or a no as a fit for the Detroit Lions?
Maybe I'm just a little pessimistic, but I'm going to say no on this one.
All right. How about you, Will?
Who was the player again?
Tier Tart.
Tier Tart.
He's 28. Yeah.
And in the list on each player, the link to their SPO track is right on their name.
The tough thing is, now look, if it was announced that the Lions signed this guy, it's not just to be all rose-colored glasses, but I trust Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have done their research. So you got to trust that they're seeing something. Like, I wasn't stoked when we got Carlton Davis, but the player he was, I'm like, man, I don't know if we're going to be able to keep him. I'll kind of be bummed out if we don't. But so I could kind of see it, but I don't feel like Tart's going to be a target.
Look, we need defensive tackle depth. We do.
Yep.
We absolutely do. And I guess what I would say with that is, if it's a 1-year contender deal, like I keep calling them contender deals, this is not a guy that I'm bringing in as a contender. This is a guy that I would be bringing in for depth. And I think that his contract is probably a little bit too rich for depth, if you're following what I'm saying here. But Tier Tart, when I look at what he's done, he's been exceptional. He's been really good. So last season, he generated 16 pressures on 349 snaps. That's pretty solid for a rotational player. His overall PFF grade was a 76. He definitely has the size that we're looking for. He's only 28 years old. He hasn't played a ton of snaps throughout his career, so that means that his lower half is in great shape, right? He's going to have a little bit more of a motor than other guys his age. Overall grade is great. Pass rush is good. Run defense is good. When you look at PFF, the one thing that I want to point out to people is 62 is about an average NFL player, 60 to 62. That's about an average. So good average, right? He's up into 76. So he's into that next tier, you know, of better than average, more so teetering on
like a replacement level player.
Exactly. Kind of like if you've got a Lee McNeil in and Tart were to come behind him, there shouldn't be much fall off.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So I do like tier Tart. I'm not sure on the contract. His market value is 5.1 million. So if the Lions are able to bring him in on a 2 over 12 or a 3 over 16 or 3 over 18, do it. Absolutely.
Yep.
Do it.
And that's where I'm at. I'm going to say yes on this guy because this is one of those Kevin Zeitler type contracts, I think, where Brad can get him a little cheaper because he's not a starter so far, but he could come in and be an immediate starter because Aleem McNeil is out for at least a month or two and to begin the season. And then you could possibly get him for a little cheaper of a contract. He knows he's going to come start and he's going to come play for a contender.
Yep.
And the situation may be even better than what he had with the Chargers. And maybe the Chargers, you know, they only gave him 36% of the snaps. Maybe they weren't giving him enough playing time, and he's not going to get that playing time there. He wants to go to Detroit, prove what he can do, be a starter for a couple of months, and show them this is what you're missing out on. So this player, I'm very in on.
I love I love the take there. We got to step away for just a second and get into some breaking news that we have right now that was just reported. Give me 1 second to get this thing fired up.
Yeah.
The breaking news Friday.
I love this time of year, man.
Oh, love it. Breaking news out of Ian Rappaport. Wow, that looks like crap. Derek Barnes just re-signed by the Detroit Lions. I don't have the exact quote here on how much. This is obviously a great depth piece. Linebacker is a problem for us. Oh, wait, here we go. Wow. 3 years, $25.5 million extension for Derek Barnes. $16 million of the deal is fully guaranteed. Wow. Deal done by agent Brian Mackler and John Persley of Sports Star New York City. So if you believe in Derek Barnes, this is your guy. He is back in the Honolulu Blue for 2025.
Right on. I think he was really coming on before injury, and injury really put him behind the 8 ball. And I think they see that, and that's why they re-signed him to this contract.
So if I'm looking at this, he's got 5.33 per year guarantee. There's probably going to be 2 void years in this, and 7.5 per year roughly is the average. So it's a little north of the Alex Anzalone deal. Let me get back to my sheet and see where I put Barnes. I don't remember where we put Barnes. I know I wasn't really high on him.
This is interesting. So just raw, normal, or not normal, instant reaction. Eric, you seem pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I'm all for it, dude. He was injured. Listen, if you go back to that playoff run, and when we played against Tampa, he was coming on, and then for him to fall out in the very beginning of the season, doesn't get to play, dude. I was so bummed.
You wonder
he went out what, week 3?
Yes.
Week 2 or week 3?
It was week 3. Cardinals
really
game.
early.
You wonder if he had played the whole year and had a really productive season. Would you be looking at this like maybe they're paying him in good faith as though he did have a great season, not cut short by injury? Because that's more than I thought he was going to make, but happy to have him back.
So when we did the comps the other day, based on what Spotrac and Over the Cap were offering, they were giving him a market value of $1.5 million. Well, I think that was a little bit off. So yeah. I had Derek Barnes in the warm category. I was not out on him. I had him in the warm category, not a direct coming back to the team, but depending on what he got for a contract, it would have made sense. Now, here's my only issue. Is he better than Jamie and Sherwood? At that kind of money, is he better? He better be better than Jamie and Sherwood. Now, it's highly unlikely that Jamie and Sherwood's even going to be available. We don't know until next week, Monday. But coming out of the Jets, they're trying to re-sign Jamie and Sherwood right now as a core piece of their team, and I would guarantee that Aaron Glenn wants to get that done, which probably makes this signing a little bit more exciting for Detroit because they're not going to pass up and allow Barnes to hit, free agency, and then he's gone. So good deal. I'm glad to see Barnes back. Just like you said, man, derailed season by injury.
Yeah,
it's time to come back. He's definitely a core piece of this team. Definitely a valuable player. Love his locker room ability. Hopefully get to see him in the locker room this year. So,
yeah, and according to all reports, Aaron Glenn was hot and heavy. He wanted to get him over to the Jets.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I heard that from multiple places that the Jets were looking to try to bring Derek Barnes in. I think this is a preemptive move. I think this is hey, you think you're just going to come in and snag our players just because they played for you before? I don't think so.
Right.
We're going to offer them enough. They don't need to go anywhere. So don't be surprised if we sign one or two more of our defensive guys back to the squad. So this runs perfectly into my next player for yes or no.
Well, hold on 1 second. So if you remember yesterday,
yep.
2 days ago, I had the conference call speaking about what's going to be happening over the next couple of days.
Yep.
Yesterday, we were supposed to potentially have some movement by the end of the day, but definitely by Friday was my report. Well, it's Friday. It's 9:30 in the morning, and this deal's done. So it's going to be today. There's going to be more action today. We should see a few more players, hopefully the right players, getting re-signed here. So congratulations, Derek Barnes. Welcome back to Detroit. I'm glad that he's back. So this might remove one linebacker off of the draft. If the Lions can now focus in on just getting one linebacker out of the draft and not have to focus in on two, this makes that easier. So, all right, what's next?
Yeah, so this next guy, he might be next up for a contract from the Detroit Lions. So yes or no, Detroit Levi Onwuzurike from Detroit Lions. He is the number 41 ranked free agent out of the top 101. And Levi O has flashed whenever he's been healthy over his first 4 seasons in the league after getting drafted 1 round ahead of recently extended interior defender Aleem McNeil in 2021. The former second-round pick out of Washington is the penetrating 3-technique interior pass rusher that every team covets. With his 12.5% pass rush win rate in 2024, ranking as a top 15 mark at the position. So, are you in or are you out on Levi O? We'll start with you, Will.
So, man. Look, Levi is a good story. I guess when it comes to his ability on the field, it was definitely categorized this year. I think that you could definitely put him into a file folder and say he can play the game and when he's healthy. And now you've got him, locked into what type of player he is. The challenge that I have, though, is the injury. And I'm only saying this from personal experience because I'm fused, obviously, in the lower lumbar and in my neck, and I know what it's done to me. Now, he has elite medical all around him. The training, it's totally different, right? I'm not out there pushing weight like he is every single day. But that doesn't mean that those things can't come back on you. And they can't cause issues down the line. It just takes one twinge, one step the wrong way, one twist of an offensive tackle, and you're in trouble. So because of that, I'm out because we got through the first contract. He was able to give us a good final season. I like the dude personally. I think he's a great dude. I like the story, but I don't want to have to worry about the health. I don't want to walk into this season and next thing you know, Levi's done again. And you just signed him to a multi-year extension. 1 year deal? Okay. 1 year. Nothing multiple. Other than that, hit free agency, see what other people are going to give you, and then bring him back on, day 3 or 4 or something when he's not getting a bunch of offers. So that's where I'm at with that. Especially with as deep as this draft is, I think that we should be able to find somebody.
So what do you think, Riley?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes with Levi. And it is because I remember so early on in his tenure with the Lions, it was almost kind of like, all right, it's a sunk cost, right? We're going to cut our losses with him for the reason that we kind of talked about earlier with another player, where your production, that being Hendrickson, if your production is improving, or is your most recent production is your best production, and you're familiar with the culture of the team, that's a player that I want back. So, of course, depending on what the length and the terms of the contract are, but I'm confident in Levi. I would like to keep him in Detroit.
Confident in Levi?
Yes,
right.
I am.
All right.
All right. So here is my take on Levi O. I believe Brad Holmes saw something in this guy. And year over year, he's gotten better. He's getting better from his surgery. He's getting better from his injury. And I believe the trajectory he was on in 2024 has propelled him to be able to get a 1-year deal from the Lions to prove it. Okay, you're getting better. Now let's see if you can string 2 seasons together. If you can string 2 together, we will sign you long term. So here you go. Here's your 1-year contract. So I like what Will was saying about signing him to a 1-year deal only. That is exactly what I was thinking when I was reading everything about Levi O. So that is perfectly where I put him on this list.
I wish I could disagree with Will more often than I do.
I do sometimes.
It's all good. It's all good. Trust me. I'd rather have people disagreeing.
All right.
It's you got a good feel for it, because I think we're all in unison there.
All right. So some of these guys coming up, we may disagree. Here, we're going to get to the edge position now. I know we're going to get one in the draft, but we might need another one to bring in as a free agent. So let's look at some of the top guys. So edge, Josh Sweat from the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off a Super Bowl run. He is the 2025 free agent rank of number 10. Sweat signed an early extension with the Eagles in 2021 and then a revised 1-year contract for 2024, which he made the most of to the tune of 8 sacks in the regular season. With the departure of Hassan Reddick and the unfortunate injury to Eagles legend Brandon Graham, Sweat had plenty of runway to boost his stock. And he did so on his way to a 75.7 PFF overall grade in the regular season. So we'll start with you this time, Riley. What do you think on Josh Sweat? Yes or no?
Yes. He's a Super Bowl winning champion. What he just added to his resume, bring that to Detroit. Give that to me in Detroit. So I say yes.
All right, Will.
Yeah, no. Definitely no. For the same reasons that I've said about Myles Garrett, the same reasons I've said about Trey Hendrickson, the same reasons I'm going to say about any edge rusher in the class. You don't sign Super Bowl winners in the past Super Bowl winners, meaning this year's. The reason why I say that is because their contracts are inflated. Because they just added a Super Bowl to their resume, they're now worth like an extra 15%, it seems like, every single season. So from that perspective, it's just a money thing here. And Josh Sweat, honestly, when you look at his production, just let me pull that up just so I can speak to fact here and not memory. I want to say that he's really only had a couple of decent seasons. He's been fairly consistent over the last 3 or 4. 7.5 sacks, 11 sacks, 6.5, and then 8 this last year. That's what you're getting out of the guy. You're probably going to get 8, 7.5, 9 sacks, but how much of this are you attributing to the defensive line as a whole, the team as a whole, the back end of that defense, which is obviously able to hold and allow the defensive line to work? I think that that's a large reason why. So for me, I want a proven player that is coming from a team that doesn't have a bunch of resources, doesn't have a bunch of big name players on it, that is producing. Those are the kinds of players that I target. I stay away from the big names. Look, if they're affordable big names, great, but Josh Sweat, too much money. That ring is going to, like, he's been in the league, what, 8 years now? 9 years?
Yeah.
I'd rather have a Trey Hendrickson at the money he's about to get.
Yeah. So me, it's a big no, no, no. And here's the reason why. He's basically has the same production as someone who is already on the Lions, Za'Darius Smith. They are not too far off in production. So I'm going to stick with Za'Darius Smith that's already on our roster, much, much cheaper, and he's a known commodity. I was never a big Josh Sweat fan. And so to me, it's a big no. All right. So next up is Edge Malcolm Kuntz from the Las Vegas Raiders. This guy is the free agent rank number 19 for 2025. If Kuntz hadn't suffered a season-ending knee injury before 2024 began and instead carried over his momentum from the back half of 2023, he could have been squarely within the top 10 of our list. Perhaps the silver lining, if there is one, to getting injured so early in the year is that Kuntz should be fully healthy entering the 2025 season. This guy, he signed a 1 year into a 2-year deal on an a la carte kind of deal. Edge defenders like some other people. And this guy, his market cap value.
Who's the guy?
It's insane. Malcolm Kuntz from the Raiders.
Okay.
So he must have had one hell of a season in 2023 because his market value is $20 million per season. And that's even more than what they predict Josh Sweat to get. So what do you think, Will? Is that a yes or a no for this guy?
So Malcolm Kuntz this past year, did he even play this last year?
No, he was completely out for the whole 2024 due to injury.
Yep.
And he should be healed up now.
Yes, yeah, so you have to go all the way back to 23, where he had some pretty elite grades overall, 81.3. But then again, when you look at where's his snap counts at? Why is PFF missing like everything on this guy?
Yeah, so he had 44% of the snaps in 23, 5% in 22, and 4% in 21. I don't know why they have his grade up so high. He only had 8 sacks in 2023.
Well, I mean, eight's a lot, but
yeah, he had 40 tackles and.
But this one doesn't make any sense. PFF has nothing for this guy. When I go back to 23, it gives me a grade, but I don't have any stats. I have no tackles, no assists, no snaps, no nothing.
Oh, really?
And for 23. So look, I'm just gonna have to say it again. If his market value is that high, and he didn't play last year, and he's coming off of an injury, look, you're gonna get a 1-year prove it deal from me. That's it. So if someone else wants to invest in this guy, great. But I don't see Brad Holmes doing that. I think that if Brad Holmes is going to do something smart here, it would be to give the guy a 1-year prove it deal. I don't think that he's earned anything more than that.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. What do you think, Riley?
Yeah, very much the same. You can't, we talked about it earlier. There's risk every contract, every player, every year, every snap. But I don't want to overpay for somebody that's coming off of an injury, not with the PTSD of last season of all of the injuries we had. And we did hit 75 likes. So shout out to the chat. Thank you guys.
Yeah. So now I have 2 cornerbacks, just 2. And this will be the last of our yes or no for today. So the first one up is cornerback DJ Reed from the New York Jets. He's the number 6 free agent. Reed is set to enter free agency after earning his 6th straight season-long 70-plus PFF grade overall. His 70.1 coverage grade in 2024 ranked 31st among qualifying cornerbacks. He excelled in PFF's advanced metrics, boasting a 51.28% lockdown percentage. So, Riley, we'll start with you. What do you think about DJ Reed from the New York Jets? Is he a fit for the Detroit Lions?
Yes, I think he is. I want some veteran leadership in that room, assuming Carlton Davis is gone. Sign me up. I'd be very happy to see DJ Reed in Honolulu Blue.
And Will, how about you?
What are we doing with Amik Robertson?
Yep.
So that's my only question on DJ Reed. I think that if you're going to bring in a vet and it's going to be someone that's going to play on the outside and his name is not Amik Robertson already, then you have to stick with a prototypical size of a corner. I think DJ Reed's like 5'9", 5'8", something in that range. I need a guy that's 6 foot, at least 5'11 and a half, but 6 foot, 6'1", the 195 to 205 in weight, someone that can still run, or, run a 4.4, 4.45 at the very, least. Has to have decent sized arms. I need someone that can play the position, that can get those arms up to deflect these balls, that doesn't have to rely on getting so handsy, but you've got a big enough body to use your body to get in the way of the football. So DJ Reed's a phenomenal athlete. He's one of the better corners in the league, but I don't need two Amik Robertsons on the same team. I need, for me, from my perspective, my opinion, I need another prototypical size on the outside with Carlton, because if something, or with Terrian, because if something happens to Terrian, who are you putting in there? Who are you sliding over to number one? Amik held up nicely last year, but I don't think that we're going to be able to get through an entire season with Amik on the outside. I think he'll end up getting eaten alive over the time. I think the teams will be able to figure out how to pick apart the defense if we get real small in the cornerback room. So for me, it's prototypical size. I'm out on DJ Reed.
Yep. So now we're on our last player, cornerback Charvarius Ward from the San Francisco 49ers. In 2025, his free agent rank was number 13. Ward struggled in 2024 and posted career lows in a number of PFF matrix, but his overall body of work will keep him as one of the top options in the free agent market in 2025. Last year was his best in the NFL to date, with his 86.5 PFF coverage grade, ranking third among all players at the position, with cornerback teammate Lenore receiving an in-season extension. The writing appears on the wall that Ward will be on the way out of San Francisco. So I'm going to start with this guy first. I'll go first on this guy. I'm going to say yes. I'm in on this guy. He's bigger bodied. His market cap is $15.3 million. I think we could get him cheaper than that because he had a little bit of injury last year and his numbers fell off a little bit, but his coverage grades were fantastic last year. And this is a guy I think we can finagle onto our team and go from a Super Bowl, almost got their team, to help us get to a Super Bowl. And he would be the veteran presence that I think we need in that cornerback room until we can draft another taller coverage type of corner. And what do you think, Will?
Did you say that Charvarius Ward's grades were good last year?
No, that was his lowest numbers in PFF, but he had a great coverage grade.
I don't see that. So either something's wrong with my PFF or.
Oh, okay.
You're talking about Charvarius Ward, right?
Yes, correct.
San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, so what do you see there?
I see a coverage grade of 58.2.
Ooh, that's not too good.
No, and I see an overall grade of 56.2 and a run defense grade of 48.4. I know two things to be consistent in Detroit. You have to be good against the run.
Yep.
Number one, you have to be able to play in man defense, especially, the type of players that we're bringing in. You have to be a man defender and be able to slip back into a zone. Now, the previous season in 23, the dude was elite. His coverage grade was an 83.3. His overall grade was an 82.6. Now, last season, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because last season, the 49ers had a very similar year that we did. A lot of injuries, right? Decimation all over that defense. He had to play through a lot of adversity. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that when you look at seasons past, 2022, he was elite. 2021, he was on the come up. That's where he really started to separate. 2020, he's been really consistent. Mid 60s and up. Now, PFF is not everything. You have to look at the tape, right? You have to watch some games. You have to watch him work. His run defense grade in 22 is a 91.1. Those are the kinds of guys, that you're looking for. Guys that can play in space. 6'1", 196. I just mentioned that is a perfect prototype for me. I I like it. I like Charvarius Ward. If we could get him at the $15 million range, maybe a couple of years. He's only 28. He's at the peak of his career right now.
Yep. And that's why I say yes. I watching the San Francisco 49ers, they've been good for so long. And I think he was one of the key pieces that made them so good for so long. What do you think, Riley?
Yeah, I think he's a player that seemingly would benefit even from a change of scenery, the physical profiles there. And I agree with, you got to look at the physical makeup of the players too. So I stand by, I would like DJ Reed, maybe like Ward even a little bit more as a fit in Detroit.
Oh, shoot. I forgot about that. J-Rod just mentioned in the chat, part of the reason why he had such a bad year, he lost a daughter last year.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. There was talk, he was just like, I think he himself wants a change of scenery just to kind of.
Yeah. Man, that's tough. So I hate to be that guy. I support him, and obviously crushing that he lost his daughter. So my heart goes out to you. But the NFL is a tough place to be. It requires your head to be in everything. So with him dealing with that, it's not like it's going to go away, right? It's not going to go away. Even if he moves, it's not just because you move your feet doesn't mean you're going to forget what just happened. I like his ability. I like everything about him. But I'm going to hit pause until I know more. So I'm going to hit pause until until more information comes out. That's my take. I'm pausing on him.
I think this was a really good exercise. Good kind of way to set it up, Eric. I like that. We should do that again to kind of, a yes or no, in or out on certain players. It's fascinating. We could do this for hours.
Oh yeah, and I thought maybe we could do it, once a week, maybe on Friday, see who we're in, who we're out on. We could do the same thing for draftable players too.
Yeah,
different positions once a week.
It's going to be fast and furious between now and Sunday, and then it's going to get even faster.
Oh God, Monday is going to be such a good show. Now I will warn everybody: Wednesday through Friday, I will not be here next week. Next week is my big gem show down in Jackson, Michigan.
All right. What else do we have to finish on today?
Well, if we're going to the finish, we have some sad news.
Yeah, we've got that. Riley, did you have anything else? I can't remember.
There are a couple things listed, but it's entirely up to you, man. If you want to, they're kind of minor.
No, go ahead and go through it. So I'm trying to look at the one here. Malcolm. So let's talk about Malcolm Rodriguez here, because again, the news about Derek Barnes, I think this makes perfect sense here, maybe as to why, this deal gets done with Derek. But talk about Malcolm.
Yeah, there was yesterday from Justin Rogers, Detroit Football Network, just a tweet that he posted. So he's talking a little bit about Malcolm Rodriguez and why that injury was so tough. I mean, just on its own, it's tough. But Justin Rogers sent out doing a little cap research ahead of free agency and realized that Malcolm Rodriguez ACL injury cost him a significant pay bump for 2025. He was tracking toward earning a proven performance escalator for playing 35% of snaps through 3 years. So he lost $2.3 million with that injury. Rodriguez played 31.6% of Detroit's defensive snaps over the past 3 years. He needed 101 more to hit the threshold of the escalator. So that would have taken his 2025 salary from 1.1 million to 3.4 million. So I think there's probably not a person in this chat or community that's not a fan of Malcolm Rodriguez and just the professional he is, just everything he's done. But as I was just thinking of that, there's the human side of it too. We kind of just hit on it with Charvarius Ward, but just tough, man. You feel for him. He's still going to make, good money, but you can only imagine, imagine in your job, you just realized like, man, I just missed out on $2.5 million. But what are your thoughts, Will, when you saw that? And what do you think on Malcolm Rodriguez?
I've always been high on Malcolm. Last year, I didn't have him making the roster because I thought that he was just going to get edged out after the season before, where he was getting 0 defensive snaps and he was the freaking H-back on offense. I'm like, what are they doing? I loved him as H-back, honestly. I thought it was cool to see him back there. He had some skills. Malcolm is, I mean, he is such a good character guy. Like, he's a guy that I would love to go have dinner with. You know what I mean? Just to have with his family too. And, you know, just kind of learn about the roots of their family and the, you know, Midwest kid. And, I love Malcolm. I think he's a phenomenal athlete. I think he's great for Detroit. He's great for this locker room. It sucks that, you know, he had to go through this last year, and just too many injuries on this team, man. Just too many injuries. Now, Malcolm is probably going to be ready for training camp, is the thought process here. He might be ready for training camp. I think this is his last year under contract, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So we might see a potential, you know, maybe an extra year added to him this year if Brad's feeling nice. He obviously deserves something, but keeping him around, I think, is smart. So I would love to see him stay. Just thinking back here, I was writing my article here about Derek Barnes, you know, in the process of doing this, and, you know, we now have Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, and Derek Barnes as our starting 3. So you got your 2 outside guys and your inside guy. Now we need depth, right? If Malcolm's going to slowly get back, maybe he's ready to go for the season. Maybe it takes him a few weeks, you know, to finally feel good. Who do we really have behind these guys? That's the biggest question, that are not free agents. And one of these days, one of us will always have the depth chart open.
Yeah.
One of these days.
Got to find one that's right.
Right. So Jalen Reeves-Maben obviously is gone.
Yep.
You know, we now have Jack, Alex, and Derek Barnes. I mean, Alex obviously was your middle linebacker for the longest, but he can play on the outside. You have Abraham Beauplan, who is signed to a futures deal. And so Malcolm was our starting W last year. And then you have Trevor Nowaski and Ben Nyman, I think, are both free agents.
Yeah, they're both.
Well, Ben is for sure, and Trevor and Pittman.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, the way that I'm looking at this, the Lions kept 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's 11 players through 3 positions. I would say that the Lions are probably going to keep 9 this year, potentially into camp at least. And so Beauplan is coming back on a futures deal. Deron Gilbert, I believe, is signed on a futures deal. And then we have Jack, Derek, and Alex. So I would expect that we might see Trevor, Ben, and Turner probably get some sort of consideration between today and tomorrow of a small contract to stick around for the year to get through camp. Probably vet minimum is what I'm expecting, but to keep the unit together and give us a really good opportunity this summer in camp, they're still going to have to add through the draft, and I'm still not out on them adding a linebacker through free agency. I think that we need one more stud on this team, and then let them battle it out. What happens if they do something with Alex? Anyone ever thought that maybe they're going to try to trade Alex? I can't see that happening.
No.
But weirder things have happened. Remember, Brad says we can't keep them all. Can't keep them all.
Nope.
So, anyway, what's your thoughts, I guess, overall now on the room? The room is almost identical to where it was last year, and that was a liability. Now, we didn't have Derek Barnes the whole season. We had some injuries that caused some problems, right? Alex was gone for several weeks. Malcolm was gone very early. We still need an upgrade. If they're thinking that they're going to go into this season just with the guys that we had last year and not upgrade anywhere, I think that's a mistake.
Do you think possibly, though, that they're going to look at the draft for someone?
Yeah, they absolutely will. But I guess what I'm saying is that doesn't mean that you have an immediate impact player unless you draft that guy, very, very early. Then I guess the expectation would be then that you could have some impact out of them, right?
Yeah. What if their first round pick is Jihad Campbell?
Well, then great. I can't remember. Is the Jihad middle linebacker?
I believe so. Yeah,
I can't remember right now.
I thought it was inside linebacker.
Inside.
Oh, inside?
I think.
Okay.
I can't remember. I don't have it in front of me.
They were talking about him even being able to play edge every once in a while. The Sam.
Well, that's what we need.
Yeah. That's why I say he'd be the perfect fit for the Lions, because he's that Sam linebacker that they've been dreaming and drooling for the past 4 seasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
We just haven't had a high quality Sam linebacker.
No, we definitely need one, without a doubt. All right, so let's kick it off for the day. We're going to end on something that obviously a lot of Lions fans have come to realize over the last 24 hours now. Andy Isaac passed away peacefully yesterday after entering hospice. He mentioned it a couple weeks ago. Andy's been a big part of Detroit sports. He's obviously influenced a lot of people with his Saturday posts, and he was just larger than life. In 20 years of battling Hodgkin's lymphoma, 2 decades this guy battled. I have a high respect for cancer warriors, and every day's a battle. I mean, you guys hear it from me from time to time. Some days are just really hard, but 20 years and being as bright and light and funny. The guy was just such a good dude, but he infected so many people with his smile, his charisma, his character. Really epitomizes what it is to be a Detroit sports fan and a good human being. So before we play this video, Eric or Riley, we'll start with you, Eric. Do you have anything you want to add or talk about with this?
Yeah, he recently passed away. He was in his mid-40s. Just a few weeks ago, he told everyone that he was going into hospice care. He knew the end was soon, and taken way too soon. And he just recently, in the last couple of days, passed away with friends and family, and he went peacefully. So
last night is when the message came out.
Yeah. And he's been honored all over Detroit. All the sports arenas have put Saturday, his hashtag from X. They've used it everywhere. He was big for saying FTB, which means F the Bears. And so he was not a Bears fan, let me tell you that. And he was big into all the Detroit sports scenes, the Pistons, the Tigers, the Lions, all of it, the Red Wings. And so all the sports stadiums put Saturday up on the their boards and outside their stadiums in honor of Andy. And then yesterday, ESPN Sports Center did something really cool. And I guess I'll pass it on from there.
Yeah, I just out of respect for everybody that's knew him, I've only ever seen his tweets. I remember seeing he was eating some root beer flavored Peeps or something, and it was one of the funniest videos I've seen, because it was just like he slammed him down at the end. He hated him. He hated him, but it was I've just seen everybody's tweets, and so many people have been touched by him. And what we do in life, that doesn't define us, right? People are important. Every single person is so important, and it's clear that Andy Isaac made a lot of people feel important, and that's a gift to be able to do. So, just send my heartfelt love out here from Utah to the Isaac family.
Yeah, to Andy Isaac's family. I mean, I can't tell you guys enough how many times that I would, so I was never big on Twitter. right? Up until maybe the last year or so. And I mean, me personally big. I mean, me spending time on it on Twitter. I never really did up until like the last year and a half. And anytime I would catch one of his Saturday rants or, you know, Sunday rant, whatever it was, it always put a smile on your face. This guy's going through so much. I've been there myself, but not to the degree that he's been going through. And he kind of just gives you that little bit of extra breath to move forward. And always made you realize that, you know, there's somebody else out there that's probably going through something worse than you. Try to enjoy what you have. You know, be where your feet are. Andy Isaac, man, rest in peace.
Sports world lost a beloved voice today. Andy Isaac, the Detroit sports superfan and social media personality behind Fatterday and the World of Isaac, has died. Known for his humor, passion, and larger-than-life presence online, Isaac battled Hodgkin's lymphoma for nearly 2 decades, sharing his journey with honesty and heart. Detroit teams paid tribute to him in his final days, lighting up scoreboards with #Fatterday, his signature celebration of food, fandom, and life. A true original, Andy Isaac leaves behind a lasting impact on sports and the digital world that he helped shape. Andy Isaac was 45 years old. Sports world lost.
So that was the video the Sports Center put together for him. Sports super fan. I mean, that's an understatement. Andy was larger than life. He really was. So appreciate everything that he did. All right, tomorrow we'll get back at nothing because it's Saturday. So I might be around, but there's going to be plenty happening between now and Monday. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of chatter. So when I get some breaking news, I will come in. I'll try to pump out as many videos as I can, you know, over the next few days. But there's a lot that we're expecting between now and even tonight. A lot of movement for the Detroit Lions. I think that they're going to try to get a few contracts lined up to retain some of the guys that they have to make free agency a little bit easier. We're already seeing the impact of the salary cap. And Derek Barnes is, I mean, he's no different right now as far as how much these guys are going to be getting paid. There was one thing that I wanted to look at, and that is positional pay for all teams. Oh, it's not going to give it to me for all teams. Where is it? I want positional pay.
Hey, Eric, did you ever get your, oh no, it was a Kool-Aid jersey you said you were going to get if the Lions drafted him, but you got your, do you have a Barnes jersey? Do you have a Terrion Arnold jersey? What? I feel like you've got the whole roster.
I do not have Barnes. I was worried that he wasn't going to make it past this year, so he's going to be one of the first black ones that I buy this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first, the black jerseys?
Yep.
Now
there was a new one that just came out.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to buy is one of the new black ones instead of the like metallic gray or silver that they have around the numbers. It's white and it really pops. So I would get one of those new Vapor jerseys with Barnes.
Okay, so a lot of what I look at when I look at where the Lions are positionally, right, and how much they're spending positionally, it's at the linebacker position. The Lions right now are projected to spend $20 million this season on linebackers. I assume this is updated with the Derek Barnes contract. It may not be. And if it's not, that means that number could push north of $25 million. But right now, the Lions are probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are the top 8 in the NFL for spending on linebackers. Top 8 in the league. The number 1 was the 49ers at $33 million, the Bears at $26 million, the Ravens at $26 million, the Steelers at $25 million, the Jets at 25, the Bills at 24, the Saints at 21, and the Lions just under 20. So something to pay attention to, because how much more are they going to spend on a position? You know, it goes by a percentage-based formula, at least from what I've seen, where teams are going to kind of cap out on a position. So some years are higher than others, but positional spending, I think, matters, and that's where now the draft is going to be so important to find that next guy. So thanks, everybody, for joining today. Again, big shout out, warm well wishes, love and respect to the Andy Isaac family. And, man, go Lions this weekend. It's going to be a tough weekend to get everybody that we want, but something's got to happen. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Go and probably go Detroit Lions.